really gotten in front of this. And in fact, we've had less than 50 cases in our entire county. In fact, the governor last night just announced her plan for reopening the state. The city and the county are announcing their plan today. So we will start to phase people back into campus, certainly, but life as well. We currently have less than 10% of our employees working on campus right now, and almost everything conducted remotely. So we will be over the summer ramping back up again along with everybody else, and doing so in a safe and careful fashion. The University of Kansas Health System is certainly our partner in all of this. They're based in Kansas City. My colleagues are. That's where I spent 23 years of my career as a head and neck surgeon. But they have been a great partner. But they've really informed and led the conversation for the city, for the counties, and really for the state. And so they're helping lead us sort of through this, and now starting to help us lead us coming out of this. So we're ready to get the next steps. People are ready to get back on campus. We are, the big question is what happens in the fall. And we are committed to being in person in the fall. Now, what that looks like is going to be still up in the air, and we'll have to figure that out as we go on. It's very possible we won't be having large classroom lectures and some other things like that. And we may be in somewhat of a hybrid mode, but we are anticipating having people on campus, but on campus in a very safe way. So we will try and make this the absolute best experience possible for your students given this current environment. And of course, it's still fairly fluid at this point as we map it out and see how things go as we open up. I also wanted to share that we will be asking the Board of Regents to allow us to hold tuition flat for this next year. And that'll be tuition and fees. So we will not be increasing our tuition this year. We have to get that approved by the regents, but I certainly don't anticipate that being a problem. So I wanted to share that with this group as well. But we are committed to get this campus up and rolling again. And we will, as I said, this is going to be a process until we have a vaccine available. We'll be working through this process for a couple of years in all likelihood. So we will learn a lot as we go, but we know we can do it. We can do it safely. And we're really excited to have your students on campus with us and to give them the best possible opportunity. We also recognize that some students may not feel comfortable coming back on campus. Maybe they have some underlying medical conditions or other issues, and we will be prepared to address that as well. We anticipate positioning ourselves to be highly fluid in how we deliver our education, so that if we start on campus and we need to move off again because of what happens in the communities, then we'll be prepared to do that without interruption. So we can make sure that your students get a full semester and a solid semester. We're going to spend the summer really fine-tuning our processes and fine-tuning and doing additional training for faculty of how to deliver in this new environment, if that's what it needs to be. But I think we're already hearing from students and faculties that some portions of this they actually really like. They desperately miss being on campus, but some portions of this flexible learning environment is actually fairly advantageous for some. So I suspect we will look different coming out of this, of how we deliver our curriculum, how we're able to meet students where they are and when they need it, and to do a nice combination of in-face and remote as it seems to be a best fit for the students. So we're certainly committed to doing that. And this update is different this week than it was last week, and it'll probably be different next week. But things are moving well, and we're on a good path right now. And I feel really great about where the governor has taken us and the state has gone. And we're moving forward in a positive but cautious fashion. So we'll be ready by fall. So I just wanted to share that, Heidi and Lisa, that we're here with you, and we will take great care of your students and provide them an absolutely incredible education and welcome them to the Jayhawk Nation, some 350,000 strong across the entire world. So it's a great network to leverage, and we will help them do that. So thank you all for joining us today. Be safe, stay healthy, and rock chalk.
Rock chalk, Chancellor.
Rock chalk, Doc Rock Chalk. Thank you,
God.
Chancellor.
You are butchering that. Doc Chalk, Jayhawk. Thank you so much, Chancellor. That was great information. And as he said, that was updated information. I just learned some things in the update that he gave, especially about tuition remaining flat. Certainly, if it's in person, that was big news and an update there. I just want to let you know for the format for today, we basically looked at your questions and tried to design this around those questions. And then, as I said, really the presentation part is pretty short. And at the end, we'll open up for questions both in the chat, and you'll be free to unmute yourself and ask it, live in person. Lisa and I are committed to be here as long as it takes to answer your questions. Also knowing that feel free to, like, if you get all the information you need and you need to get out of the Zoom meeting, that's totally fine too. That's one of the nice things about this format. If we were all stuck in a room together, you'd probably be feeling awkward about getting up and leaving. But know that we understand if you get those needs met, and that's great. Feel free to come and go as you would like, but we will be here throughout the entire time. So I'm going to share my screen here and get going on some information. All right. So, yeah, first of all, as I said in the beginning, I do have a student here at KU right now. He's in his freshman year. Well, currently he's in my basement right now, um, but I just share that with you to know that I'm going through this with you. I share definitely some of the same hopes, and as the chancellor said, desperately want him to be back on campus in the fall. He desperately wants to be on campus in the fall. But also some of the same fears, and what does this all mean? What is it going to look like if we're in person, and what will the safety of our students be? And so I'm right there with you. I do feel fortunate that I get a little bit of the inside baseball knowledge, because I get to do these, hear the chancellor talk to us. And then also he has given our entire campus community updates at least twice through Zoom. And for me, as a staff member and a parent, it's been very reassuring to hear his voice. And he starts off every one of those webinars with someone from our health and public safety. And that is reassuring to know that those staff members are in every one of those discussions about safety for our staff, our faculty, our students, our current, our future students. That is centered around all of their discussions. So I feel very thankful for that. And for those of you that don't know, our chancellor is a doctor. He is a world-renowned surgeon for neck reconstruction surgery, especially after cancer. And so his mindset is a health mindset. And when he's looking at how he runs KU, he cares deeply about the students and the people and their health and their safety. And so that health mindset, I think, kind of separates us from maybe how other organizations might be led. And so that's something that's very reassuring to me. I did put over here on the sharing my screen, this is where we will post any of the latest information related to the coronavirus and how it impacts KU. And just know, I hope you did hear that message, that our goal is to be in person. We are moving forward with the idea we will be in person, but there are many scenarios being considered. As he mentioned, what will that look like if we're in person? Will some of the classes be smaller? Will there be a hybrid of in person and online? So that's all being discussed right now. And of course, if anything changes to what is predicted with the curve and how the coronavirus is hitting Kansas and other areas, if anything needs to change, there are also other people talking about what that would look like. And so we know that really is most of your questions. And then also, I know a lot of your questions were about what will it cost then. So I was really glad to hear him saying that it will remain flat if it's in person. That's good to know, but know that we definitely hear you, and that if it is online, that will be taken into consideration in how tuition is developed as well. We have not heard an exact number on that, but we know that they are having those conversations about how tuition will be set no matter what our model is. So Lisa, I didn't know if you had anything to add just about the interest, the intro here and where we're at with coronavirus, and any updates for them on that.
Thanks, Heidi. I think you definitely covered it all. We certainly want to make sure you know that we would communicate any updates at all to you by email. We would send it to your student and also you as the parent. And so we just want to make sure you know that we will keep the communication rolling all summer long. So your students are probably tired of it, but we hope you aren't. And we just want to make sure we want to welcome your Jayhawks here in the fall. We know they want to be on campus if they've definitely decided to attend KU, and we sure hope they can have that experience.
Yeah, and so we are going to go a little bit back and forth here. Anybody watch The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon? Um, you probably hear my voice the most, so you can think of me as Jimmy Fallon and then Lisa as Higgins. Really, the brains behind the whole operation here. But we'll go a little bit back and forth, and I just want to reiterate too before we get into the nitty-gritty details. That no matter what the delivery is, KU is committed to continuing to offer a world-class education and an experience second to none. And so we're just so glad that you're here and that your students are this interested for you to even be here. And we again thank you and want you to know we think they're making a pretty awesome decision. So Lisa, I'll turn it over to you for enrollment deposit.
All right. So today is May 1st, and that is typically where we have the majority of students who have decided to attend the University of Kansas. And we know those of you who are here today, some of your students have already decided and paid the deposit, but some of them are still deciding. COVID has kind of put a twist into the deciding of their college where they plan to attend. And so even though we would love for you to pay today, if Heidi and I totally convinced you on this webinar today and you hadn't made that next step to pay the deposit and your students planning to attend, we'd love to see you pay the deposit in the next step in the next few days. But we want to assure you that we're very flexible of when that payment needs to take place if you've not yet made the decision. If your student's holding out, still trying to decide, their admission to the University of Kansas is secure and they can make that decision when it's best for them and your family. If your family circumstances have also changed and you prefer to ask for a deferment of the enrollment deposit, that is totally fine. The enrollment deposit then would be tagged on to the fall payment with the fall bill. So that would basically defer the $221 enrollment deposit being due until September 15th. And we're going to talk more about the billing cycle later on, but we wanted to know that you can certainly request a deposit. We never want the deposit to be a barrier at any time. And so although we can't waive it, we can defer it and it can be paid with the fall bill. So all that information can be found on our enrollment deposit website, which is deposit.ku.edu. We also get asked a lot of questions about, can we get the deposit back? Is it refundable? And it honestly depends on what steps your students take with KU now that May 1 is here. So if once your student pays the enrollment deposit or has a deferment, they can sign up for orientation. If at any given time they do attend orientation, then the enrollment deposit is non-refundable. And so because it's actually a prepay, basically the deposit covers first year programming and orientation services and just different things throughout their first year. And so if they attend their orientation and then decide not to come, they'd have to not only withdraw from classes, but they wouldn't be able to get the enrollment deposit back. Also, if they happen to have selected their housing, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, and then they decide not to come to KU and have paid the deposit, there could be some housing cancellation fees, and that deposit might apply towards those fees. So if your student pays the deposit, does no other steps with KU, they don't attend orientation, they haven't done anything with housing, then yes, the enrollment deposit is refundable. We're very flexible with that as well, and we don't have a deadline. Our website used to say it was only refundable up until May 1st, but again, with COVID, we've changed all of that. We're very flexible about when they pay the enrollment deposit, and then again, depending on what steps they take, it may or may not be refundable. And so, but again, if you are on this call and your student's been bugging you to pay the deposit, but you are waiting to hear whether or not we'll be in person, as you heard from our chancellor today, it's certainly our goal to be in person, and hopefully that will help you make that decision. So I will put the deposit website, like Heidi said, I'll be doing a little bit of the chatting with some websites, and we'll also be going back and forth, and then we'll be opening up for any questions here in just a little bit. So back to you.
Yeah, so after you've paid your enrollment deposit, you should be getting an email from our office about a yard sign. And the yard sign, we call them the Rock Chalk Ready yard signs. And those, it's such an exciting year, any time of year to be offering those yard signs, but especially this year. If any of you are members of our Facebook 2024, our Parents Facebook 2024, you can see those pictures. I've seen more pictures of those yard signs this year than any year, and you can tell it's just adding a little bit of sunshine into a spring season for them that I know had many disappointments with graduations and proms and things like that. So those yard signs are there to bring a little light. If you have not received an email yet, those do just go out to those who have paid the enrollment deposit. We send those out twice a week now. So if you've paid your enrollment deposit and you don't hear anything by the end of next week, then definitely contact us and let us know, because the shipping of the yard signs is on us, and we're happy to do that. And it's fun seeing them pop up all over the country and all over Kansas. Um, so yeah, as Lisa mentioned, how everything impacts with orientation. You should have also received information that orientation will be online. And so that online orientation will take place just like it would have if it was in person, meaning that the dates will remain the same. How they organize it, which they organize it by academic major. So whatever your student had put on their application or whatever they made their major, those are the dates that they will have available to them. So if they go to the website, and I think Lisa's going to put in the website for the Office of First Year Experience. The Office of First Year Experience is wonderful. They're the ones who are coordinating orientation. And when you go in there and register for orientation, you will see the only dates that are available to your student are based on their major. So that will still be organized like that. At this point, orientation has said to go ahead and plan for the full day. Go ahead and have the day blocked off. Now, of course, they don't anticipate that it'll take the entire day. There will probably be times during the day where you get a little break. And depending on where your students and advising enrollment is, you could be done earlier. So, but at this point, to just block yourself and your student for that entire orientation date. And just also know that there's no parent fee now because it's online. So if you did already pay for that parent fee, you should be receiving a refund for that. And I know their office was diligently working on how to refund everybody on a pretty quick turnaround. So just know there is no fee for the parent. And as Lisa mentioned, the enrollment deposit is part of what pays for orientation, their staff, the information, the materials, and also first year programming. So when your student gets to KU, there's first year programming that takes place, and then that's also where your enrollment deposit goes to. So it's a continuation of that enrollment deposit, so that you don't have to pay anything else for orientation. It's part of the enrollment deposit. There will be no parent fee. So what to expect leading up to it, I just went through this last year with my son, and you would think, working here, and I even worked in orientation for a bit, that I would have it all down pretty well. And it was a learning experience for both of us. And so if you're feeling at all like, are we doing everything we're supposed to be doing? Is everything right here? That's a normal feeling. And I would just really encourage you, any information that you get from the Office of First Year Experience, put it into a file. Once you probably have a KU file in your email, probably have an admissions file. Make yourself a Office of First Year Experience or orientation file to keep all those so you can refer back to them, because they will be sending a lot of information to you. Some of it will be in the mail, but most of it will be online. It'll be through your email and your student's email. So be looking for those. If your student's anything like mine, God love him, but he does not check his email. And it was constant of, hey, did you receive that email? You might need to know what you need to do next for orientation. I see lots of head nods. So thank you for that. I'm not alone. So they anticipate they'll be sending out that information mid-May. So start to look around mid-May in your email and in your mailboxes. For orientation itself, some of the sessions will be pre-recorded, and then some of the sessions will be live. As they develop the format more and more, we're finding out more and more. And so one of the first sessions your student will attend will be with current KU students that help them through this process, and that will be live. And then there will be some sessions, for example, resources and what to expect for how to support your student here. Some of that will be pre-recorded, but I was super glad to hear that the advising and enrollment with your student will be live, will be one-on-one, and right now they're allowing an hour for that to take place. So how it works when you go to orientation is you do a little kind of pre-advising sessions where you go with your student to the session of the major that your student is interested in, and they talk about the types of classes that your students will enroll in. And that gives you an idea of what to expect, gives them an idea. But their enrollment and their advising and enrollment is just with the student, and then they actually enroll while they're with their advisor right there. So I was really glad to see that, because I know that was a really great part of my son's orientation, was sitting one-on-one with his advisor and not doing it in a big group and being able to ask questions there. And then the other question that we get all the time about orientation is the credit transferring and how will things work now that we're in the situation that we're in. So we have some websites there, admissions.ku.edu/AP. That's for any AP credit that your student might be transferring in. There's IB, CLEP, and then the bottom one is for our, if your student is taking any type of college coursework, that tells you how that coursework will transfer to KU, that bottom one, credtran.ku.edu. You go in, you select your state, you select your school, and it shows you what that transfers to at KU. So before orientation, it's helpful to have a look at these websites and get a sense of how the credit will be coming in. Now, whether online or in person, we always have an issue with AP credit in that it doesn't become available until after July. So your student will meet with their advisor, and their advisor will put them in classes at the time that they're eligible for them. So if they don't have that AP credit in yet, they won't necessarily get into that next class until we get it. But what happens is once we get that AP credit, your student just needs to work with their advisor. They'll get their contact information at orientation and say, hey, I got my AP credit in, and this is what it is, and is that going to change the class that I'm in? This happens all the time, every year at KU, kind of, again, no matter online or in person. But Lisa, did you have anything to add on to orientation?
The only thing I wanted to mention is we do the last webinar we did, they asked when they need to get their college transcripts to us. So if they can just get those transcripts to us as soon as the semester ends and grades are posted, that is also super helpful for what you were saying, to get them placed in the right classes. And then some said, well, they're still taking summer classes. We'd still prefer, if, I mean, unless it's a fee, you know, it's going to cost you twice, we'd still like you to send those transcripts. So college transcripts as soon as the grades are posted, if they've been taking classes this spring semester, again, just so we have the most accurate information at this point. But if your student is taking summer classes and you want to just wait until after the summer, they'll just need to, again, make sure to let their advisor know during that online appointment what classes they've been taking, and if they can even have like a printout of those and already have looked at CredTran to see how they transfer, that would be helpful too. So that's just a tip. And then we of course want them to send their high school transcript with high school graduation date as soon as your high school posts that information and can send that out. So that is one more thing your student does have to request from your high school, is where to send their final high school transcript. And ideally, we'd like to have that received by July 1 as well. All right, let's talk about housing. We've had a lot of questions about housing, and a lot of our students actually have not yet decided where they're going to live. And so there is still space available in our resident hall environment. Our scholarship halls have been a very popular choice this year for students, and they are currently full. So if your student had applied to live in the scholarship halls and they've not yet heard, you might want to contact the Department of Student Housing just to make sure they had everything from your student. But your students should have been notified already if they're in the scholarship halls or if they're on a wait list. So if they had applied separately for the scholarship halls and not heard, I encourage you to email housing, and their email is housing@ku.edu. Our resident halls have space available. They do have limited space available at this time. And that top website on this slide is the website that you can check to see what housing is available at this time. So if your student hasn't taken the step for housing, they do not have to have paid the enrollment deposit to do that, but the first step is to fill out a housing application, and there is a $50 application fee that goes with that, and that is non-refundable. It's just part of the application processing fee. And then if they are just now doing that part, if they're just going to do the housing application at this time, then they'll actually be able to go into the housing selection for their room selection and their building selection the very next business day after they filled out the housing application. And housing is guaranteeing that housing resident hall and will be available to your student as long as they fill out that housing application by June 1st. So, but it's just going to depend on which ones are available at the time your student goes in. So once they fill out the housing application, they'll get instructions about going into the room selection to pick their building and their room. And at this point, there's not too many rooms that are just fully vacant. So they're already even going to see which roommates they have. So then they'll be able to start connecting with those roommates. And so what we're recommending for students, if you're definitely wanting to live on campus, is to do that housing application as soon as you make your decision to come to KU. Or even if we're in your top 2 right now, you could still do the housing application piece. You just will not be able to be refunded that $50 application fee. And that way they can get at least their housing secured. And then if for some reason they change their mind, as long as they would contact housing to cancel, if they actually go in and select the room, they would need to cancel by June 1, or else there are then housing cancellation charges that start happening after June 1. And I'm going to put the housing cancellation link in the chat as well. We also get a lot of questions about how does it work if my student is wanting to look into joining a fraternity. That is a little bit tricky for the men because and Heidi's going to give details about the fraternity recruitment process, and her son actually joined a fraternity who's a freshman here. But just so you know, if your son is looking to join a fraternity, that is going to be a personal decision for you if you do this housing piece. Because if you do the housing piece and your son selects a room, they would need to cancel by that June 1 date, or else they're going to have housing cancellation charges after June 1, and they may not know if they're in a fraternity by that time frame at this point in time. So Heidi will go into a little more details about that, but that one's a little bit tricky for the men who are looking to explore and join a fraternity. And then um, as you've heard throughout today's webinar, we are certainly hoping to be open in the fall, but if something would make that change, if we were not open and the resident halls would not be open, then there would be no cancellation fees if that was not an option. If like the resident halls were not open, but we certainly are planning to be here in the fall and have those open for your students.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is just, you know, as your student goes in and selects a building and a room, if they don't see something available at the time that they're in there, just continue to check back. It updates live. So as students are going in and moving into other rooms, maybe, you know, going to a different hall, whatever it might be, that opens up other rooms and it happens just live. So if your student is going in and still hasn't selected, don't feel like they have to select just what's available at that time. I would encourage that they go in and kind of readjust and look and see if something opens up, because that's the great thing. It puts it on them. And then that's the same thing for your student. If they've already selected a room and they want to go in and change, they can do that on their own. They can just go in and do that at any time. They can also see their roommates there. So it's all within that system where they go in and select their building and their room. So as Lisa mentioned, we also get quite a few questions about sorority and fraternity life. Just so you all know, we have about 23% of our students who are part of the Greek life system. So, you know, while 23% of 19,000 students is a pretty good number, it's certainly not the only way students get involved. But for those students that do go through sorority and fraternity life, there are a lot of upcoming things that they need to be thinking about as well, or even if they're just kind of interested, just good things to know. So for sorority recruitment specifically, there's the kupanhellenic.com website, and actually their guidebook and registration is already open. It just opened up today. So if you were to go to that website, you will see their guidebook, which talks all about how they do sorority recruitment, and then it has the registration link there as well. It is set to take place at this time, August 16th through August 22nd. And so anybody who decides to go through it would move into the halls a little bit early on August 16th instead of the regular move-in day of later, which I'll get to in just a second. And they'll go through that process there at that time. So take a look at that link if you need to see more information on what they need to do. Just so you know, sorority members do not live in the sorority house in their first year. They live in on-campus housing typically, and then they typically live in their house their second year. Now for fraternity recruitment, totally different, and also kind of individualized and not quite as organized as the sorority recruitment. So if you have a son who's looking through it and it kind of seems like just a different process and try to understand, they're not wrong. It's a little hard to understand, and this is after going through it with my son. So just so you know that if they do join a house, and if the house does have if the chapter does have an actual physical house, they are typically required to live in that house. And we did get some questions about um, how is that going to work with social distancing? And that will all of those things are determined by the houses directly. They are ran by their national chapters, and so all of that will be determined by those national chapters in conjunction with the campus as well. And so any fees that they need to pay for living in the house, whatever, that's all done individually by the chapter as well. That does not come on the regular bill, where housing comes in on the regular bill for residence halls and scholarship halls and KU apartments. For any of the Greek life, whether it's dues, fees, or living, that comes separately directly from them. Right now, their June formal recruitment was postponed. That was supposed to be taking place over the summer, and they are hoping to have something back up in the fall for anybody who hasn't had a chance to connect yet. So be looking for more information on that. And then informal recruitment is always taking place with fraternities. It actually starts taking place in the senior year of the student. And so we've talked with the Interfraternity Council. There's their website there. You see it at kuifc.org. They said the best way is to reach out to the chapters directly and show interest with the recruitment chairs. So that's in with the individual chapters. They go directly and just send them an email and let them know of their interest. And that's the best way to do that. And then also, as Lisa mentioned, for housing and fraternities, this is again the situation, whether we're COVID or not. For fraternities, if someone goes in and selects a building and a room in our housing, and then after June 1 decides to live in a fraternity, there can be some cancellation fees. And we did put up that cancellation fee website for you to see. So you do want to make sure you're paying close attention to that. I personally, we did not have our son go in and select until we knew what he was doing, because I just didn't want to worry about if I was going to be charged something extra. So we just waited. I knew he's kind of laid back and chill, and so I knew whatever hall was available would have been fine. He would have figured it out. And so we just didn't even select a room until we knew for sure what our plans were. So Lisa, anything to add to Greek life or anything they should be prepared for?
Nope, you covered it, and I added the web links in there. And as you mentioned on that slide, the sorority registration and handbook, it went live this morning at 7 a.m. It was there. So I bet there's already women signing up for sorority recruitment. All right. This next slide just shows you some of the important dates that are coming up. We've been asked that throughout the different webinars. August 20th is when students would move into the resident halls, and that's also when our Hawk Week activities would begin, which is just a lot of activities for Welcome Week and coordinated events. They're not required. There might be a couple that actually will be required this year, because we are certainly hoping to have even more programming that first week, since we did not offer an in-person orientation. And so the Office of First Year Experience is also working hard in coordinating those different Hawk Week activities and what that would look like for this August. Once your student attends orientation and enrolls in classes, then those bills will be generated. You can actually go on and look at that ahead of time. And Heidi, I'll let you talk about that in a little bit about that. And then your bill for the fall semester is actually due on September 15th. And classes begin August 24th. And we certainly hope that that date will still be the the date. We've had committees discuss alternate dates if that would be necessary, but the plan right now is to keep the date as August 24th just because of the academic calendar and how it rolls out. But if anything changes would be made to that, that would certainly be communicated. But that's where we stand for the calendar right now. And the reason I wanted Heidi to talk a little bit more about the bills, she kind of has firsthand experience with it, because as soon as your student does attend orientation and enroll, then that bill would actually be available soon thereafter to log in and look at. And you would need to be setting up your parent delegate access in order to look at that bill and be able to pay that bill. So Heidi, I'll turn it over to you for a little details about that, and then I'll put the delegate website here in the chat.
Thanks, Higgins. Seeing if you're paying attention. Yeah, so as it says here, it says bills are generated August 21st. And so what they mean by generated, you won't get it in the mail. It will be posted to your student's enroll and pay account. And that's what we mean by generated. That's when it'll show what all the actual charges are and when it is due, which it is due September 15th. So a question that we commonly get is, can we do a payment plan? And while the university does partner with a company that helps us with the payment plans, typically that payment plan, unless it's changed for this year, and I think Lisa's going to put the payment plan website in there, it basically extends it into September 30th instead of September 15th. So what they do is they set it up for you and say, okay, pay this much in June, pay this much in July, pay this much in August, pay this much in September. So they kind of split it up that way for you. It's, as I said, it only extends it to September 15th. So a little insider information for you, as Lisa said, as soon as your student enrolls in classes, they'll start to have fees out there. So what you can do is kind of make your own payment plan. You can go on there and look and see what will be due. And if you want to split it up between paychecks or credit cards or whatever it might be, you can kind of set up your own payment plan and pay it when you want to pay it. You just have to have it paid in full by September 15th. They do take credit card payments. There is a fee for it. I actually went in and calculated, okay, what's the fee and how much am I getting in my credit card in return? And I found out that it didn't equate, that it was better for me to go ahead and do an electronic check and not pay the fee. So just a little math for you there. So having it due by September 15th, and it's all done electronically, like I said, either credit card or with electronic checks. So that's typically how that works. Like I said, not sure if there's any changes to it this year. We also get questions about 529 plans and how to pay. There is an option for your 529 to pay directly to the institution. I don't know, that seemed to confuse me. I didn't want to do that. So what I did was I just went ahead and paid, and then I reimbursed myself directly from the 529. And I just need to make sure I'm keeping all the information about the tuition and things like that if it were to be audited. But it was a very simple process. It went very fast. It was very easy to do. And I could also go in throughout the semester and be like, okay, we want to take out a little bit more. We're needing to take out more for living expenses or things, other items that we didn't take out in the beginning. So you can do it throughout if that's something you have going there. So Lisa, any other thoughts on the tuition and fees? And as we mentioned in the beginning, right now we're hoping that tuition stays flat, as the chancellor said. And if there is online or, then we're hoping that that's going to be discussed too, about the different rates that will be available as far as tuition goes.
No, I think you covered it. I did list both those websites there if they wanted to set up parent delegate information, and as well as the payment plan. And on that same payment plan link that I provided there's actually a separate link for information on the 529 plans too. So it's both listed there.
And so what we're going to do now in just a second, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to unmute your microphones. Well, we're not going to unmute them. We're just going to let you unmute them if you want to. Just remember to keep them muted. If you're not speaking, that kind of helps with feedback. But I did want you to see these important contacts over here. First of all, we get a lot of questions about your specific majors. And I would highly encourage you contacting the schools and departments directly. For example, we had questions in the last webinar about how does it work with music and if it's online and things like that. And they're doing that this spring, so they have a pretty good idea of how it's going to work with music or any of the labs or anything like that. So contact those departments directly for those kind of questions. Find your admissions rep. Your admissions rep is a KU grad, very familiar with everything KU, and they're kind of a good go-to person if you just don't even know where to start. I know you've probably gotten a lot of emails from them already throughout the year, but go to them as a good starting point for anything that you might need. And then also, big questions that we get from you have to do with financial aid and what if things are changing now. So affordability.ku.edu/help lists out all the financial aid counselors. You all are assigned a financial aid counselor by your last name. So if you go to that website and you can look by your last name and get the contact information for your financial aid counselor, because some of you may have a difference in income now, and that's a special circumstance that needs to be reconsidered for your financial aid award. So if you're having that situation, definitely reach out to your financial aid counselor to have them help you through that process. So with that, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. The chats have already started, and you are good to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. You can kind of just unmute, start talking. You can raise your hand either virtually on the Zoom or just raise it right here.
Hello there, it's Michael from Kansas. Kind of
Hi,
a generic
Michael.
question about, hi there. Kind of a generic question regarding the financial aid and applying for scholarships, given many students may be in a situation where in fact their high schools have been closed for a while, and the normal process of maybe going through with their counselors to apply for scholarships, etc., has now been impacted since they haven't been in school and been able to receive guidance. What kind of broad level adjustments with dates or efforts or processes have been implemented to kind of adjust for the fact that their primary guidance would be coming from counselors at their high school that they haven't had access to for a while?
Yeah, great question. Appreciate that. And I love your little KU, what's that called? What's the word I'm looking for there?
Neon light.
Neon light. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
God, boomer situations always happen to me. Kids make fun of me all the time. They said I look like a gamer though in this headset, so that's fun. So yeah,
I live on Zoom, so I'm used to this. But yeah, that's the biggest issue we have is how are we adjusting to this? You said it earlier. What are we not doing we should be doing? I'm sure that question probably is one that everyone has, and the money part of it is maybe the biggest
huge.
question.
Yeah, so the great news for our scholarships that KU offers, that happened automatically when your student applied, and you know, what's great, it's a transparent system of you know, whatever your GPA and test score is, this is what the scholarship is. So from our perspective, none of this has changed. Basically what we're doing with our scholarships, your student, when they applied, we automatically considered them for that. But I know, you know, is like for Kansas example, there are Kansas scholarships that they're eligible to apply for. Maybe they're looking at some community-based scholarships. And so those I know are adjusted by those entities. So the state of Kansas is the one that offers those scholarships. So they would be the ones that would adjust any kind of deadlines or anything like that, as well as any of the community-based organizations that offer scholarships as well. But as far as KU, the good news is this really doesn't change a whole lot about the scholarship that your student maybe has already received. Now, I would say anytime you have a question about their KU scholarship, you know, maybe you have a question of were they considered or how much money did they get, always reach out to your admissions rep, that admissions.ku.edu/rep-picker website, and go to your admissions rep if you have any questions about their KU scholarship or their financial aid counselor. But they can kind of help be a guide too if you're having special circumstances there too that they need to consider. But otherwise, it would be directly with that scholarship entity.
Hi, this is Scott. I had a two-part question for you relating to the current year and the current situation. The first part, since you have a student that's currently on campus, what has been their experience with the online program, if that's what we have to go through starting this next year? And then the second part of the question would be, for those having housing this year, are they getting refunds for not being on campus? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start with the housing first. Yes, they are getting some refunds. Housing's working directly with the families of that and how to prorate it. And but yes, they are getting a refund for that, both with their well, they're getting refunds for their residence hall, and then they're doing some you know, if they're not returning to KU next year, maybe they're graduating, then how does that work with dining plans? If they are returning, then the dining plans are rolling over to next year. So they're trying to be as flexible as possible with that. And then as far as the kid in my basement that's been taking online classes from KU, it's been very flexible. And I think that's been the first thing that he's talked about as far as you know, what to expect. He's had some in-person classes. He's had some pre-recorded classes. And then he has kind of some smaller one-on-one situations with some of the classes. He said it's very different from class to class. But the one thing that I was concerned about is no matter the format, that he had the access to whoever he needed to talk to. And he said, oh yeah, that comes a lot with directly, they still have their office hours as faculty members. And there's, you know, they still have some of those smaller lab situations with their graduate teaching assistantships as well. So he's been able to reach out to them. So he definitely prefers the in-person. He misses campus and his KU experience a lot. So much so that he said to me, he's like, well, what if I want to go a fifth year? Because I missed out on my spring semester of my freshman year. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, first of all, that's going to cost more and you're not going to be making money. So that could be a problem. But I think that just spoke to the experience, how much he valued the experience of being here. So not only was it the world-class education that I always talk about in admissions, but the experience has become even more and more, I think, prominent in how much more they're going to all appreciate it when they are on campus. That's really what differentiates their whole KU experience, is being on campus. And so yeah, so it's been good with the transition, but yeah, he definitely prefers the in-person. But I would not be surprised if there's a combination of in-person and online when we get here in the fall, just to try to be as safe as possible and keep class sizes down as much as possible.
Heidi, I'm going to grab a couple housing questions that have been asked. So sorority recruitment move-in is Sunday, August 16th. And so someone asked if it's the 15th or the 16th. It's the Sunday, so that's the 16th. Someone asked if housing is thinking about if, you know, depending on, do they need to make changes to the room? They are having discussions about it right now. They are having discussions, but right now students are selecting the room. So if it's a 4-person room, it's a 4-person room. So the plan is to move in as they have selected. If something would change, they would certainly be communicating that to the students who have selected rooms. And so they are having discussions, but they are not making plans to do that at this moment. They are planning to have the students move in the way that they did select. And then, oh my gosh, Wanda, this is a great question. This must be your first student to KU, because we probably have one of the most well planned out move-in. Like, for a large public university, we're always complimented about how smooth it is, because you are this is prior to COVID. Everyone is assigned a time to come, and they don't let you move in before that. So don't try to come early, because they have spaced it out so that there isn't a cluster. Any parents on here right now that have experienced it and had a great experience? It's awesome. Isn't it awesome? Give me a 2 thumbs up. It is so smooth, and people just come. And I had a friend say, well, I'm showing up 3 hours early. And I'm like, well, you might as well go grab breakfast, because you're not getting in 3 hours early. You have to go on the time that they give you so that you keep the flow going. And it's super, super smooth. This was prior to COVID. I'm telling you what, it's awesome to watch. I'm like, that is really well done. And I hope you all have the same experience. So stay tuned. We're way too early for you to get sent that information. You'll get sent that information in August to tell you when you're going to move in. But you guys move in August 20th, and you're given the time slot to come. And then sorority recruitment moves in the 16th, and they're given time slots to come move in. And then like marching band moves in earlier, and some other groups move in earlier too. So you would be told differently if you have a different time. And again, that's just all clearly communicated to your student. So that information I don't think is sent to parents. I think it's only sent to students. So make sure your students are checking their email for that information. So And we did get the question about if KU doesn't open in the fall and they stay online, can students defer their start date? And they certainly can, and that's an easy process. It's admissions.ku.edu/update. They don't even have to fill out a new application, and they can just defer. They can do that at any time if they choose not to come to KU, and that's good for one full year from when they initially applied. So if your students admitted to fall 20 and they want to defer, they would only fill out a form all the way for spring, summer, or fall 2021. And then if KU, so let me just clarify, I'll just clarify something with that. If KU is online, we would send instructions about all of that information, like if you would need to defer, things like that. All the instructions would be there, and how it would affect your scholarship, things like that. But if KU's in person and your student just wants to defer because they've changed their mind or they're doing something different, and KU is in person and schedule as planned, but your student still plans to defer, their freshman scholarship may not be available, because if they take even one college class somewhere else starting this fall, not at KU, and we're in person, then they're considered a transfer student. So their freshman scholarship would no longer be available. And so you got to be careful and make sure you know about all those things, because if you're relying on the freshman scholarship, then you don't want to defer if KU's in place in person. But again, if we're not in person, we're in line, we would outline all those instructions about if your plans have changed and you need to defer and how that affects your scholarship. But we don't have all those decisions made and all those processes in place right now. There's just committees being discussed for that. And as of right now, we're still planning to be in person. And Deb, I just answered that. Scholarships don't necessarily follow them if they defer. If KU is in person and your student defers and they take a college class, even just one, they are officially a transfer student, and they'd have to see if transfer scholarships would be available. If KU's online only, then we will have instructions whether or not how that scholarship would apply if we're only online, but we don't have those details yet. So depends on which way you go.
And I saw a question on there about basically the final deadline to confirm your enrollment. And really, it's all the way up until classes start. Now, just being cautious of that, because your student will still need to be advised and enroll in classes. So for your own sake and just sanity, it's better to make that decision and go through that advising and enrollment in June or July. We also offer a couple in August, which will also be online for anybody who is still deciding as well. But basically, you can commit to KU all the way up until classes start. And then as far as applied for the scholarship hall hasn't heard, I would definitely contact housing directly to see what the status is of that.
And then part of that question too was if they should cancel their housing contract. It's not really needed to do that at this time, because you're not going to get that $50 back right now, because that was the housing application fee. So I would keep your housing application live right now until you've officially decided or not. And then if you just don't want to select a room and possibly incur cancellation charges after June 1, then you could hold tight. But there's no reason to actually just say withdraw your housing application right now. You can kind of just be in a holding pattern and not select a room, but still have your housing application ready to go. Someone asked if we're not open in the fall and classes stay online, and students defer to another semester, do they keep their roommates in housing? They don't know how that would work yet. Again, that would be announced if that decision was made. They have so many scenarios of what that would look like. And again, that would be communicated if KU would move online.
Yeah, Michael, saw your question about freshmen commuting. How common would that be, especially coming from the Kansas City area? It definitely happens. There are definitely students that commute to campus, and what they do is just purchase a parking permit that allows them to park, and then they use the bus system here, just like anybody who living on campus would. Just so you all know, your students, when they come to KU and they pay tuition and fees, they're paying for the access to the buses. So they have the access to the bus throughout the campus, and it actually goes off campus as well. So it does happen. We are definitely primarily a residential university, meaning most of our freshmen do live on campus or live in, a fraternity on campus. Most students do that, but it definitely happens. Every student situation is unique. And also what comes along with this question, are freshmen allowed to bring cars to campus? And absolutely, they're allowed to bring cars. They would buy a permit, and that permit, if they're living in housing, they would have a housing lot permit. And it doesn't necessarily guarantee them a spot, as you can imagine, but they can buy that permit and park their car. I personally, this was just my experience, we did not allow our son to take a car to campus the first semester, and I really like that because I feel like that kind of had him, uh, you know, be more dependent on being where he was living and really getting to know everybody and not being off campus that much. Somehow he talked us into allowing the car the second semester, and we did, and it was fine, but I really wish that we didn't. Actually, I wish we would have had him not bring a car to campus. They really figure it out pretty quickly, using other people's cars or getting a ride or taking the bus system. He had everything he needed. So personal preference, of course, but it's not necessary at all to have a car on campus. And a lot of our out-of-state students, they figure it out real quickly about, how to get back and forth from the airport and who's going where they're going. It's almost unbelievable how, I guess it's with social media, everything just happens so much faster and easier. We don't even need to organize it for them. They figure it out very quickly on their own.
We're looking up some of the questions that are being asked about dining and not being able to switch their plans. So, and some information here. So be looking in the chat because we have some of our KU admission staff looking up that information. And as Heidi mentioned, that's how you get your parking permit. We also just wanted to let you know not to be surprised when those, if you guys are the ones that are officially paying the bill, when those charges start showing up on the tuition bill. When your student attends online orientation, they can sign up for that permit. They can sign up for the all sports combo, which is to go to KU football and basketball games, Rock Chalk, bring back the sports. And that's $175. So if you start seeing these charges on there, those are things that your student has signed up for. And bonus, because the students may not see that bill, but you may see that. So you would have your tuition and fees, you'd have any housing charges, any dining charges, and then any additional things that your student signed up for after orientation, all right on that bill just for you.
And then I was just going to add a little bit too about if they live in a residence hall, or if they're living in an apartment that requires the meal plan, they'll select their own meal plan. And I always recommend getting the lowest amount possible because it's really easy to add on. And if it's just easier to add on if they need it. So that's an option there. But if they are living off campus, for example, an apartment or house off campus or in a fraternity or whatnot, there is something called the 425 plan. And we utilized that and really liked it. It basically also acts as a debit card, and it's only good for food on KU's campus. So, and they also get a discount, much like the students who have a meal plan get a discount to food on campus. The students with the 425 get that same discount. And so that allows them to, in between classes, going and getting some Chick-fil-A or crunchy chicken cheddar wrap, or that's kind of what KU is known for, by the way, the crunchy chicken cheddar wrap. It's fabulous. Or even just a snack at one of the hawk shops, one of the convenience stores. It basically reduces the amount of the cost, and then he just uses his student ID to make those purchases. And so we really like that. And the great thing about that 425 is it automatically rolls over to next year. So I think we looked at his credit or his balance when he came home, and it was around $200 still. So we'll just roll that over to next year for him to use when he's on, getting around campus. And I know we're busy answering the chats over on the side, but feel free to, again, unmute yourself and ask any questions.
Someone asked about our tutoring services, and we do have a lot of those available to students, and they even continue to offer those online. I would say KU did a really good job shifting this spring and still offering student services throughout the spring semester. And so I listed the website there and the email address there. And, you know, everyone at the University of Kansas is still working. Some offices are currently really flooded and their response time is a little bit longer than normal, like the Office of First Year Experience, with a lot of questions about changing dates and things like that. And our academic advisors are crazy busy doing Zoom meetings to enroll current KU students. So if you do contact one of those offices, you might just give them a couple extra days to respond, because I know some of their inboxes are quite busy. So Heidi, someone asked if you could explain a little bit more about the meal plans, and you're more familiar than me on those, so I'll turn that one back over to you.
Yeah, so the meal plans, whether it's the residence hall meal plans, or they're very similar to maybe how their high schools run it, where it's basically like a debit. You put a certain amount on there, and then they go in, and as they go eat, they can use it wherever. They don't have to just use it at their dining location that's closest to them. They can go to any dining location. They can go to any food option on campus to use their meal plan. And that's why I say put the minimum on there. I don't remember what the exact numbers are, and maybe we're going to put up that that dining website there. But I recommend getting the lowest amount, because it's easier to add it on than be worried about how it's going to roll over or not. Like I said, this year it is rolling over because of the situation of students leaving housing early, but normally those meal plans don't roll over. So I recommend getting that lower amount there. But it's very much very easy for them to use, and like I said, they get discounted rates when they go in and use it, whether it's in a dining hall, which is that's kind of the all you can eat, all you care to eat kind of fashion, or whether it's just going and picking up a snack at any of our other dining locations, kind of restaurant, kind of food court locations that we have around campus, or whether it's getting a coffee or a candy bar, whatever it might be. So that's how those work. And then again, that $425 is basically an option for a meal plan for anybody living off campus. And then I see a question there too. This was a good one. Orientation day, should the student have own access or share the computer with the parent? Or should the parent bring their own computer? I think that's a great question. I'm anticipating that when you get the orientation information, and again, that should be going out mid-May, they're going to give some recommendations on that. I would imagine it would be better to have separate computers if you have them, if that's a possibility, just because there will be some things the students do on their own. But if you don't have one, that's not needed at all. You can just be on the same one. But I'm going to guess orientation is going to be giving you some advice on that when it comes time. Great question.
Hi, this is Carolyn from St. Charles. My son Matt's going to be a freshman this year, and I have a quick question about, and you all might have mentioned it, but for updated transcripts, what is the deadline for like the full transcript once he's done with this semester?
Yeah, so the full, we like to have that in by the 1st of July to make sure we're getting all the information there. But as soon as they have it available is great. But July 1 is great to have it all there just so it's ready to go, for the fall semester. So we have all the credit possibilities there. We have it shown that we received it, because as you remember, your students, when they applied, they provided self-reported information, and so we use that final transcript to kind of verify that information. So July 1 is usually the date that we give there, but just know there's always flexibility with that. It's just preferred date.
Okay, yeah, because I think his orientation is June 4th, so we're an early one. And technically, I think his last day is in like 2 weeks, I think. Although he's been home. But yeah, I think he has maybe 2 weeks of classes and they aren't doing finals this year. So
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So then, you know, this as much as available at that orientation, if you have that transcript, I
okay.
would try to have that available when he's at orientation. But then, yeah, just get it to us by July 1.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
If we've missed one of your questions over on the chat, feel free to let us know. We're trying to make sure we're replying to all of those.
I did get one privately that just said, any tips on just that first year as a parent going through it? And one of the things that worked out pretty well for me this last year was we're from Lawrence, and so that's a whole other level of, you know, being close to campus and whatnot. And you know, I think my son, you know, he's like, gosh, am I going to see you all the time? And how's that going to work? And I really wanted him to come to campus and have his own experience. I did not want him coming home and doing laundry and doing all those things, because I wanted him to really, you know, get connected with his new roommates and his classmates. And so I told him, I said, I don't want to see your face until Thanksgiving. And you know, of course, he holds that against me all the time. He's like, "Thanks, Mom, for that." But my main reason for that was, again, I didn't want him. You know, it's so important that they get connected, and it starts with Hawk Week that Lisa talked about. We find those students that get connected are the ones that do retain. They are the ones that graduate and graduate on time. So having them stay connected where they're at was really, really important to me. Now, on a personal note, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in August, and that's why my hair looks like a pixie cut. Which, you know, I don't mind it now. Actually, it's not too bad. But then, of course, he would come see me, you know, after a chemotherapy treatment, and he's like, "How is that not seeing my face till Thanksgiving working out for you?" And I was like, "Oh, you know, just don't even." But so I did get to see him a little bit more. But you know, once the spring started too, he was like, don't be surprised, you're not going to see my face as much anymore. And that's a good thing. You want them to feel connected, and even though it's hard sometimes, they don't communicate all the time. I feel like, you know, he has some friends that communicate all the time with his parents, and then some that don't at all. That's, you know, a good thing when they're being self-sufficient and doing their own thing and not needing to call as much or text as much. But I did say, you know, just a text every now and then, you know, a quick FaceTime. What's that is that gonna kill you? He still didn't do it. But, you know, I think the big thing is making sure they get connected. They get connected to their living organization, and they get connected and start becoming that part of that community. That was just one of the really important things to me.
Excellent questions about the yard sign. Yes, your student does have to log on with their online ID, just like they've been doing to pay the enrollment deposit and to sign up for orientation. So yes, that's the student's online ID and password to sign up for a yard sign. And several of you have sent me private messages about that, and I've been looking those up. Most of you have been sent that email, or your student has been sent that email. A couple of the parents didn't receive it for some reason, so we'll have to look into that. But your students did receive it, and so if you've messaged me privately and you have not received that and your student already has received it, I'll resend it to you. So just send me a private chat and I'll be sure to do that. Parents Weekend, we're so excited for. It's the weekend of November 6th, but the football game would be the football game on November 7th. And we listed the scheduled, the website there for you for Parent Weekend. They are looking to do some different activities, but it is also just an opportunity for families just to visit. So there may be some coordinated events that you want to attend, or you just might want to spend time with your student. There will be discounted football tickets, so I would wait and wait till the discounted tickets come up, and they haven't even started opening football tickets yet, but you're welcome to pay the higher price, but you also would get a code for a discounted parent prices for parent weekend. So might hold tight for those emails. We have a parent association at KU, a KU student parent association. So you receive information about that once your student enrolls at KU. And that's also what that website, that parents.ku.edu website, has information about it as well. And so, yeah, those are some questions there. I'm getting some emails about yard signs again, so thank you. But if we'll be happy to resend it. And Heidi also put a contact of Gina Bird out there. She's our yard sign queen, and that is for sure. And yeah.
Yeah, Gina coordinates directly with UPS, our local UPS, to get those sent. They've been awesome. They pack them up, they send them to you, they fulfill it all. And so she definitely has the most knowledge about the yard signs. And so if you haven't received one yet and you have paid that enrollment deposit, you haven't received an email, you can contact Gina directly at ginabird@ku.edu. She can help with that. And Perry, I love that KU hat. I had that one. I don't know what happened to it. I love it.
Heidi, love your hair. It's cute. I had a question about where do they go for online campus jobs? See if there's any availability for online campus jobs.
Oh, great question. So when they get here, if they're here in person during Hawk Week, there's something called the job fair. And that's a great place it's in that first week before classes start. They can go around, and anybody who's hiring, they will be, they'll be there at that job fair. But I always encourage students to think about where it is they might want to work, and even reach out to that department ahead of time, even this summer, and say, hey, I'm looking for a job, wondering if you have any openings, because anybody who's reaching out to them, they remember. It's much more memorable than just a random person coming to the job fair. So if there's a certain department, like for example, I was a math major in college, and I went directly to the math department, and I had a student position there. So I encourage them to work out. Now, as far as online positions, I'm not sure, how that would even work. I would still encourage them to contact any department they're interested in and just get their name out there and have a contact. Just so you all know, there are a lot of ways to work on campus. A lot of students work through the Student Rec Center. And that's the Ambler Student Recreation and Fitness Center. A lot of students, they hire a lot of students, hundreds of students work there. Of course, dining facilities hire quite a few students. All of the academic departments usually have student assistants. Our office hires student ambassadors. So if you have someone who enjoyed that experience and can see themselves walking backwards, giving tours and talking on panels and talking to parents, great, apply to be a ambassador. And we usually start our hiring for ambassadors in the fall semester is when we do that. And so be looking for that. But yeah, I would say my best advice there is to reach out directly to any department that your student kind of thinks they may want to network a little bit in, or have fun working in as well.
Thank you.
And thanks for the hair shout out.
Heidi, as you were talking, did you answer the one about where to send the final transcript? I know you were talking about it, specifically where to
I
send
didn't
it.
say where, no.
Okay, so someone asked, and I'm not really sure what they're referring to, and now I can't find it back up in the list of chats. I was trying to find out who asked if they send it through the MyKU portal. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Your student sends their final high school transcript or any college transcripts to the KU Office of Admissions. So and I can list if your high school and the college you're requesting it from, if they actually physically mail it, I can list the mailing address there. But a lot of times you just tell them University of Kansas and they send it. But if they do need an email, I can put that in here too. But I don't think you do anything through a portal, because we actually have to receive it here in the Office of Admissions. And so we need it sent directly to our office, whether it's mailed to us or sent to us by email, or some just send it electronically through their system, and we just pull them down, you know, like through the different systems that are out there. And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
when I requested it last year, I remember through a school, I had to go online to the school and request it, and they sent it electronically to KU.
yeah, just completely, we mostly get them electronically. You kind of just select where to go, where to send it. But I'll put the email down in case you do need anything, or the address in case you do need that. But you usually just say University of Kansas Office of Admissions.
How many KU alumni do we have in the group? Keep those hands up. I'm going to scroll through and look. Oh my goodness. Love it. Those of you without your hands up, you're going to feel like it by the time you get through this. That's great. Thanks, you guys. Oh, good question about how often the webinars are taking place. Because like as you all found out today, we got some new information that we didn't even have. We did one of these Wednesday night for some of the essential workers and those that couldn't join during the day, and that was new information. So right now we're still scheduling these out through May, and they're pretty much taking place every Friday. Now, Lisa, I can't remember if they see that when they go into the admitted senior visit, if they can go in and see and have the option to sign up. I can't remember how they see to sign up for the parent webinars in the future. But I do know that if any kind of major announcement, were to come or anything like that, we would communicate with you directly so you don't have to wait for a webinar. And then, probably depending on what it is, we would just offer it up again and send out an email blast again saying new information if you want to sign up. But Lisa, how do they sign up for
Right
others?
now, the other dates were sent most recently when we sent out this one. But yes, you would have to see it on our admitted senior. We have them in the admitted senior. Like you go to visit.ku.edu, click on admitted senior. And if you didn't know the dates that are coming up, you'd have to click through all the dates until you saw a parent webinar show up on there. But there, as Heidi mentioned, the future parent webinars are very similar to this, unless we have updated information like we received this morning about tuition should be no increases for this fall. We would learn that today. So there might be a few different takeaways, but for the most part, they're very similar. And we, like Heidi said, we would send a message out if anything changes at all. And we certainly hope to get a message out soon that says the plan is to be in person. We just have to get that. We have not got that fully done yet and approved yet to have a written message out there. But like the chancellor does on his webinars, he says that's certainly our plan. I also wanted to mention a couple of parents thought that maybe their students would start receiving emails to their newly set up ku.edu email. They don't get emails sent there. Any communication is still being sent to the email that they provided at the time that they apply. And they'll start getting emails later on at the ku.edu, maybe even in August. But we really communicate until your student's officially here in August. We keep communicating through the email that they used at the time that they applied. Just wanted to clarify that. So they haven't really been taught how to go look at that other email yet. And so we don't want them to feel like they have to learn how to look up that ku.edu yet. So, but that will be, once they get here in August, that's the only one that KU will send to. But for now, we don't send it there at all. Wanted to clarify that.
That's a great question, Sharon, about housing fees staying the same this year. If that happened, Lisa, I have not heard that. Had you heard anything about housing rates staying the same, or when those rates? I mean, those rates are available right now on their website.
Housing rates are already up. They were already passed from the Board of Regents in the spring. So those costs are still set and plan to stay the same. So the costs are already out there. So the costs you've been seeing are the costs for the fall for housing and for the meal plans. The tuition is always later for those who are not familiar with Kansas, because we have a lot of out of state. They don't ever take tuition until June to the Board of Regents, and they have to take a proposal and it has to be passed. And that's where the chancellor was saying they're taking a proposal of no increase for this fall, which is very nice. It's good news, actually. I think all current parents are going to be excited about that one as well. So
Preach. Yep. Super excited. Well, we can see that the questions are kind of winding down in the chat. Feel free, continue to chat at us. We'll stay on here for a few more minutes if there's still the questions that you have and that you want to get answered. But if you are taking off, I do want to make sure you know how much we appreciate you taking your time doing this, appreciate you sending your students our way, and just that we will do everything in our power to make sure that they have a great experience, that we take care of them, we keep them health and safe, and just know that we're here for you throughout the process. So you can always contact us if you need help with anything.
Heidi, did we talk about that someone asked if they can visit campus like later in the summer. Did we talk about that at all? So right now we don't have our plan our governor just announced our phase-in plan for the state of Kansas, and KU now, as the chancellor said, the county is going to be talking about it today for the county, and then KU will follow with how we roll back onto campus, because as he mentioned, over 90% of staff are working remotely, and they certainly don't want to bring us all back on campus all at the same time, and the governor's not recommending that as well. So right now, what I would recommend, if you wanted to visit, you can certainly drive around the beautiful campus now. I love doing it. I love seeing campus in the spring and summer, but buildings are locked right now until we reopen. And so if you wanted to wait until we reopen, then that coronavirus.ku.edu website that we had at the very beginning is going to be the place that will provide that information. And so you certainly can do it. You can certainly drive around now. You can certainly come down to Lawrence and support our wonderful local businesses and restaurants and do takeout. And then they're going to be opening as well throughout the month of May. And so restaurants were listed on there, with social distancing. So I think that you'll just want to watch and stay informed of that. And then, and depending on when we send timing of communication, because we've been asked that quite a bit, we might just send another communication about that to let you know when it has reopened, just for people who do want to stop by and see it. So right now though, if you did walk around, you'd just be walking around to see the beautiful campus, and you wouldn't be able to get into buildings right now. And that's probably going to be for at least another 2 weeks for sure. We've not heard at all that we're going to be back on campus in the next 2 weeks. So they're going to, like I said, phase us into returning to campus. And I'll change my background real quick just so you could see what it did look like in the spring, because it's one of my favorite times of year. So I'll do that really quickly. So this picture was taken here this spring with our tulips. We love it. I missed being up here for that. I didn't take it. Photo credit to marketing communications. if you have any other questions, if not, it's
Oh,
right.
I
Rock
like
see
Chalk
yeah,
Jayhawk, baby.
Start,
Rock
yeah.
Chalk,
If
Michael.
if you have to get off early, feel free, go start your happy hour early, right? Flexibility, working from home, no one knows these things. Rock Chalk, it's Friday.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about either.
I did get a question. My student chose a room, but at the time could not get a room with the roommate he wanted. They both chose a room that already had one occupant. Should he contact housing? No, you don't need to contact housing. Actually, they can just continue to keep going into the housing log on, the portal where they went in to select their building and their room. They can continue to do that daily and look for openings, where they could maybe put 2 people in. And so then they would both leave the current one they're in and go into the other. So you don't need to contact housing about that. They can do that directly within the system. But yeah, I encourage you to do it. Like maybe check in the morning, check in the afternoon, because things do change. It's very fluid at this time of year, how students move in and out of their housing selection. Great question. And Potts, I see you there. You have any questions or any advice?
Hold on. I'm on my phone here, so it gets, where do I go?
I'm just picking on her because I know her.
I know.
It's one of my dear friends.
I love Heidi. Can you hear me? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, Heidi and I go way back. And I can't wait for our son to join you all there. So it'll be fun. We live in Colorado. So but yeah, we're just navigating some housing issues, maybe a fraternity selection, but so it'll all work out. It'll all work out. I have an older son who went to a different college. He was almost a Jayhawk, but we just set up Sunday night talks, and it just worked out well throughout the year. And then we got to hear about his week, and it was just something that we looked forward to. And I think he did too. He was in Savannah, Georgia. So, and they're usually a lot less hungover or,
Hey Heidi, this is Michael. Can I piggyback and echo that recommendation? This is the world of Zoom nowadays. My kids are upstairs out of school, can't get them off the video games, but I can get them to Zoom with me even though I'm downstairs. So
I do. I agree. I think a weekly
Zoom with your
meeting and do
kids.
Zoom and have a weekly meeting. It's great. Because
Set up that
especially
time, Zoom
most
with
of the
them.
time they've learned how to use it this spring if they hadn't used it before. So
Their siblings can jump in. It makes it easy. Nobody has to leave their computer, which kids can't ever do. And they can just Zoom, and it doesn't matter if one is across state, across metro, or, well, in my case, just one floor above me. It doesn't really matter. And, it actually works great. And believe it or not, if you find yourself where you can possibly help, if the kids, if there's a subject they're having, or they just want that as an excuse to whatever, and they ask, you can sit there and socialize with them in a lot of different ways. It's an easy way to keep them connected. And as I've been told, it's often very critical, depending on the school they're in, to try and formulate study groups. And it is easier when they're on campus. And so Zoom allows you to not have to feel like you're missing out, or like they have to show up. And it can save a lot on traveling or whatever. It's a real good tool.
Yeah, I like that idea of a Sunday check-in, and you can tell Jeff I can see his face before Thanksgiving. That's fine. It's just my own kids can't see their face.
I agree. I remember at KU, I didn't go home till Thanksgiving, and I was from Omaha, and it was great. I mean, I loved everything about it. So
I have triplet nieces who will be freshmen, and they've just told their parents that they're not coming home. So they'll probably have to go home before that because they don't want to. They're ready to move here now. They're just, they don't like how their senior year ended, and they're just ready to be here, be in Lawrence, and be done and be ready to start school. So yeah, they showed up at my house last week because they were like, we're done. They live in a smaller town here in Kansas, and they were ready just to moved to Lawrence. They didn't move in or anything. They just stopped by to say hi.
Yeah, triplets. Can you coming to KU all at the same time? Oh my God. I'm breaking out into a sweat just thinking about how that would work.
They're on the first orientation date. They want to get this done. Get enrolled.
I like the enthusiasm.
I know, right?
Oh. Well, I think I'm going to leave the Zoom.
Thanks,
And thank you so
Ann.
much. And Heidi, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
And
Can't wait.
you look great.
Ah, thanks.
All right. Rock
All right,
chalk.
take care. Rock chalk.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
gonna take off. And
yep.
Heidi, you know, that smile, it doesn't matter what your hair looks like. It looks great. The smile covers everything.
Ah,
But the hair does look,
You know,
the
she
hair
kicked,
fits you
she
well.
kicked it.
Thank you.
She kicked it to the curb, and she's amazing, and she looks great. I love her hair.
oh,
Mine would have
you're
come in
kind.
fully gray. She has no gray in sight.
No,
So.
there's gray. You just, it looks like little
I think the app
highlights.
description is adorable.
You guys,
Thanks.
Michael, we appreciate your tips and advice. And again, if you guys have more questions, stay on, or we'll be wrapping this up in just the next few minutes. So again, we appreciate your time on this Friday afternoon. It's a beautiful day here.
Thanks, guys. Been very useful. Appreciate it. Bye all.
Hi, Heidi. It's Hunter.
Hi.
I'm not very Zoom savvy, so I don't have my picture up. But I was in another meeting and I joined about half an hour late to this wonderful info session. I'm wondering how can I sign up again so I could go to the next Zoom and pick up what I missed.
Yeah. So we will be offering another one May 8th at the same time at noon. And if you go to, well, did you get the email for this one?
I did.
Did it have the other dates listed there?
Let me look. I don't. Hold on a second. Oh, hold on a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
Let me see if I can find it. Gosh, where did it go? I get so darn many emails. Okay, here we go. It doesn't list the other dates.
Okay.
I'm listing them in the chat because you have to search on our calendar for them.
Well, and Nancy put in the go-to.ku.edu portal parents for the parent webinars.
Good.
So do you see that one there, that Hunter, that says the HTTPS go to? Yeah. Copy that link and then you can register for that
There we go.
May 8th one.
Okay. I clicked on it now and it's actually subscribing to a webinar channel. I guess it'll walk me through.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
No, not that one. The one above it. The one that says go to. The one you clicked on was probably the YouTube. But there's one above it from Nancy that says go to.ku.edu.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
the one above it.
portal. There we go.
That one.
Okay.
Yeah, not the YouTube one, because if not, you're going to see a taping of these webinars, which I know are totally fun. And I told her that we can tell our kids we're YouTube stars now, but totally up to you whether or not you want to spend your time watching the recorded webinars.
Okay. All right. I'm signed up and good to go, and
Awesome.
I will see you guys then. Thanks so much for all you do.
Yeah. Thank you
problem.
for joining.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Rock chalk.
Okay.
Okay, and with that, Lisa, unless you're working on something else, are you working on another answer or anything for the chat?
Nope, I'm good. Nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Well, with that, we'll conclude it. And yeah, feel free to tune in to any of the others. So we'd love to see you and have a great weekend and rock chalk.
Rock Talk, everyone. Thanks for being here. Have a great weekend.